Hi, Carol here. A warm welcome once again to my craft room. We're going to take some Copics and I'm going to quickly show you how I color something that I want to have a bulbous effect, a rounded effect like a balloon or a heart, something that has elasticity to it like a balloon, where you want it to not lay flat, you want it to stand out. So I'll show you this with the actual hearts because I erased my project that I was coloring the balloons, the actual heart balloons that I was making for this card, but I did have this from another project that I'm going to have up, so I thought I would share this with you here. Now, the one thing that's great about coloring things to look like they're actually see-through and have this unique look of it's the R59 and I think the R89 that I use here, is laying down multiple colors. I start out with, as you saw there, a nice violet as the underneath part. Anytime I'm doing either black hair or I am doing something with a deep red tone to it, I put the mauve tone first. I lay that down. Then with the circle and the moon shaped here, you saw that I put kind of an orange-red base to it. I want this to stand out. And there's a few methods that I use in my madness to get this effect. And I thought because the tutorial is so long, I would really speed this up and talk you through it. Now, it looks like it's gone, doesn't it? I have really pushed it back into the paper, but I'm going to bring it back up with that same color, the R35. The R35 has orange tones to it, so it's nice to use here. And I'm going to show you something else that's really neat for bringing out something to stand off the page. There's the BV 4 zeros. I like to use that instead of using the zero marker to, take color away. Just use a lighter tone of whatever color you're using. And for me, my undertone was lilac. So the BV, the blue violet with 4 zeros, works out really well to push this color back into the cardstock. Then we're going to take the W9, W7, and W10, and we're going to use that for the outer edges, and that will make this bulbous effect, pushing the reds towards the center and making this heart really stand out. And then when you put your glossy accents or what your crystal lacquer, whatever you're going to use on here to make it have that wet look like a balloon, it's going to be such a nice effect. So I'll keep rounding it out. This is the W7 as you see here. Then I'll push back the light red. I basically wanted to just show you this on the red hearts. If you're going to, I'm pushing in the W10 toward the outer edge. That's where I'll put the deep, deep black gray tones. So I don't use black, I always use gray. And then I will go alongside that with the orange, which is probably the R59. I didn't place it so I could see it. And I also keep a pink close by. Now, my Signo broad tip will play a big part in making this look bulbous, pushing back the color. Because if you aren't comfortable, if you aren't able to bring that moon shape and the oval shape up on just one side, like to a really light tone, use your Signo broad and color on top of that. And you can see how already it's making this heart just have more elasticity to it and stand out in the center. And you still get the look on the other side that's light. I'm going over the edge of the heart here. That's light. Here are all the colors if you want to stop the video to check it out. And I used green tones with the same process as the red. I will use an undertone of light green, maybe to a light gray as an undertone with the green, And I'll follow the same process of the moon shape on one side and the oval shape on the other. Here is the crystal lacquer I'm putting on, like the glossy accents. I had to hold it with my pokey tool, so now I'm covering that. And if I'm using glossy accents, I like to lay it out on acetate. These are my page protectors, the nice thick acetate pages, because it comes off easily, and because it's so thick, I can use the heat tool right here. And what I'm doing is I'm heating it around the edges to bring out the center. Then I can put some double-sided foam to keep it raised off the page, and that will really give your images a rounded, bulbous look. And you're doing it with heat. You're heating up the edges, bringing out the center. Then you'll put your Scotch roll tape in the center to keep it up, because you did heat it so that it would be raised. And hearts galore. You can do this in any color if you follow that little process. So let's do it with the other two small hearts really fast. Lay your mauve tone, lay your round and moon shaped after you put, well, I'm doing red, so I'm going to work with the R08. This is a lighter red that I'm using, and it almost looks orange, doesn't it? Then I'll use the light pink to bring it out with that little moon. And on these ones, I wanted to show you don't have to have the moon on the right side and the oval on the left. It doesn't matter. Just have that shape, that initial shape on one side and the other shape on the other, and work around it. And you can see it just form into this bulbous shape and really come alive. You can go over top of it because you can bring it out. You can make it smaller by going over top. And I wanted to see how this really does apply to any color. Just if you're doing reds, add the violet, the light mauve, the lilac, and then go crazy with your reds and your orange tones, your pinks, and then your grays, your deep grays. I used the warm grays actually, and I think it was the 5-7 and the 1-0. So you can work with it, and once you get the glossy accents over top, it is truly amazing how this stands off the page. And you can see how I'm going around with the light tone, not leaving a different shape to this. I'm going to bring that circle and the moon shape a little broader. I'm not going to pull it in as much. And you will notice that as I'm going through, you'll get that look underneath. Then we'll add some of the glossy accents, the grays on the outside, and we're pretty much finished. And you can just apply this. There's the warm grays going into action, and now we'll move into the hearts. And see how you can see those moon shaped images and the oval images in these hearts. And I'll leave you the set that I used for this. It is a separate heart with this cluster of hearts. And I'll put the name of it over on my blog. I really liked this set, and I haven't used it. And it had, well, I'll leave all that information for you in the description box as well. So now here is something different. I wanted to do a card that was different because I was thinking of St. Patrick's Day. Thus, the green on my shirt, the green balloons in the hearts, right? The balloon hearts. And I didn't make it. So I thought, okay, you're going to have to switch it up. Oh, here's little Hunter. He wanted to join in, and he wanted to put his hands into this. So I said, well, let's put your hands into it, Hunter. So we grabbed some paint and put it all over a piece of paper, smushed his hands in there. There you go. Had to add a bit of his thumb. And he always likes to join me. If he's here visiting Nan, he likes to join me on an art project. So I thought, look at this. Let's make these hands, and you can give it to your mom for a little gift, a little hand gift from Hunter. It's so cute to have one of these memories, isn't it? So he's mushing his hand on the other side. He's going to put it down on this sheet of paper and call it a craft day with the Nan. So anywho, let's move along. I think he's here. I think oh, there he is. Squish that down. Oh yeah, he was happy. That's all he had to do. And then I'm moving along here. So I took a sheet of paper. This is 8.5 by 11 Post-it note paper. I tore out a rugged edge around the the inside portion, because I was thinking of having grass. And then I thought I'd bring it up a level. I don't want just grass with balloons going up into the sky, like grass, green grass. I thought I am going to do something with my chipped gold leaf flakes. And what I did was I put Versamark down first. Here's my silver and gold leaf sheets. They're really light. I'm telling you, you have to be so careful. They come in, you can see what they come in here, just little squares, so light. And they go on so nicely. Now, you could do this with just the Versamark and put it down. You could put it down with double-sided tape. But I chose to use my sticky, well, first the Versamark, the Alderis Creative watermark. I used that. And then I put the Ranger sticky embossing powder. So what you do here is you lay down the embossing powder, you heat set it, and then before it gets cold, you put your gold leaf on it. And I'll leave that information also on my blog. And here's the gold leaf this is called tea stain. It comes just like this in the actual round container. And then before it gets completely, cold, I'm going to put on the gold leaf flakes. And as many times as you need to do this with your Versamark and heat set it with your Ranger sticky embossing powder, you can do that. And I'm just using one of those applicators to get it all moved around. Then what you can do is grab the foil leaf, and notice over there on the side, see that round red with the little cartoon in it? We're going to use that. It's from the dollar store. It has the little ball in there, and you move it all around, trying to get it to the center. We're going to use that. So here we are. Here's the sheets, and I am just planting it wherever, because that sticky Versamark left spots when I was taking off the tea leaf flakes that I can put that light, beautiful gold leaf behind it, and it will stick. It will adhere to that underneath. And it just left this beautiful, look of gold grass. What can I say? And now, after I got all the coloring done on the hearts, I wanted to add some glossy accents or crystal lacquer here. That's what I'm using. I want to add it to the hearts that are to the, either a couple of them to the forefront in one cluster, and then a couple that are to the front. And, another way to put that is just put some of it on some of the balloons and some just leave it plain and flat the way you colored it with your Copics. This is just gives it that look of being more like a latex balloon if you add the glossy accents to it. So that's what I'm doing, and then I'm going to let it sit overnight and come back to the project the next day. That's what I did here. I'm just trying to figure out which ones to add it to, and I really love the look of that, don't you? It really does help you to get that latex balloon look just by adding the glossy accents. But you can do it through your coloring as well. The whole time I was doing this, I'm thinking in my head, okay, what am I going to put on the background? Like, I've got a cluster of balloons going up in the sky, and then I have the gold leaf on the bottom with the tea leaf flakes as, a hill, a mound of gold grass, so to speak. How is it going to present itself in the background? I didn't want to leave it white, that's for sure. I was going to put a heart little girl image. She was hanging on to a heart balloon, but that didn't work out. I don't know, I didn't feel it. I didn't want to put that in the background. So I just, because I had to leave this overnight to dry, I had some time to think about it and change it over to a birthday card. I love taking time. You know, sometimes you don't have the time. You have to come up with an idea ASAP. But I had a little bit of time here. I'm just going over it with a paper towel to make sure I'm not going to lose a lot of these gold leaf. It's called oh, hi. Oh, it's nice that you stopped over. It's because he wants to remind me of my Burt's Bees almond and milk hand cream. Now, this is so similar. It's very similar to Tim Holtz Distress Micro Glaze. They have the same properties, except for you're not going to pay as much for Burt's Bees almond and milk hand cream. It smells delicious. Oh, I'm telling you, it just smells really good. And it protects your surface from smearing. So I'll show you that later on as we keep going on this card. Now, I needed to use a stencil. I decided to do some clouds in the background with some pastel colors to kind of be pushed to to push back in the background and move these balloons forward and my beautiful gold leaf hill. Yeah, I have oxide inks. I'm telling you, I haven't even opened yet. It's crazy, but I did get one opened, and I'm using this really light tone family of the oranges, the yellows, kind of the mustard yellow. I think I do put a bright yellow in there, and a pistachio. And I'm going to lightly have these clouds in the background. Because it's such, I'm going to do every side of this card. I don't want to do too much more on the front. So I thought, well, this is perfect. I'll use these little brush applicators. You know, I got at my dollar store when nothing's a dollar. And you can quickly just wipe them down and use each one of these different cloud designs to push these clouds in the background. And you can see how pretty this is going to look. You just, on the balloons itself, we're going to wipe it down. So you don't have to worry when you're doing, applying some oxide inks. Good night, Carol. Spit it out, right? We here in Ontario are having the craziest weather. It was freezing this morning, then it went really warm, and now we have this cold front coming in. We're supposed to get snow on the weekend, and I thought the snow was gone. I'll have to see that to believe it. And now we have these high winds I'm listening to. Wow. But here, let's get on to this. I want this hill to really be accentuated. Kind of a grass effect, but I didn't want clouds obviously way down to the hill. So I just made the same colors and pushed the color forward up into the hill. Kind of like, you know, you have that glow around the moon or a glow around the sun. Well, we have a glow around this beautiful gold leaf mound I have going on here. So let's move forward, and we're going to put our Distress glaze on there. I'm going to show you the difference, and you can see the consistency is the same, but one is to the cream color because it does have almond milk in it. I just add a glob of it onto the page with a Q-tip, and now I'm going to go over top of everything. I'll use both. They both protect really well. You know, you have this beautiful slippery surface that you're not going to lose, you know, especially with the oxide ink, it's not going to go anywhere. Let me just say that. So I had this, all of this sparkle glitter paper I wanted to use up in my stash. So I took out a bronze, a green, and a gold. And I took the Martha Stewart balloon punch, and then I took the Stampin' Up! 3 heart punch, and I just you know, did a few of each of the colors. Then I thought, okay, I'll leave enough around the edges and put a sparkly, glittery edge to this, but I didn't, because I didn't want to have too much glitter going on. I thought just having the hearts here. I took my 5-inch roll of sequin double-sided tape for the back here, and we're going to apply that. Now it's really funny because so many things went wrong, as it always does with me. I had made the front of the card too short, which means I made the back of the card too long. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Yes. And I'm doing a mixed media piece, so I don't know why I'm worrying so much about the sides being, you know, right on, because I am going to distress the edges. But at the time, I wasn't sure about how clean and simple looking I was going to make it. But yeah, it helps me to use my supplies, right? So I had this tag already in my stash of glitter, so I knew I was going to use that. I loved this cocoa colored glitter paper, and what's nice about this glitter paper is it doesn't, you know, you can't scrape it off. See how I had to add some to the bottom because the back wasn't long enough, that black back piece. So I just added some double-sided tape, and we're adding some glitter paper to the bottom. And I'll show you how it does work out at the end, because I can't remember. There were so many things going on that I had to correct that we'll just roll with it together and see what happens. But this glitter paper is beautiful. And I wanted to use that orange piece, that tag-looking piece of die cut that I had. You can see the white, it's kind of tipped upside down there. And I'm going to show you something you can do if you work with mixed media and you want to use up some bright glitter, how to do it. So here I'm putting this over top of the double-sided tape, and then I'll cut it down to be the same size as the front of my card. And yeah, so now I'm setting this up there. I don't know, I was doing a lot of cutting. I'm measuring it off, turning it over here. Let me just see what we're going to do. And I really liked it because I ended up having double-sided tape over the entire back of this card, you know, the flip of the card. And it'll all turn out in the wash, you'll see. It'll all come out in the wash. So now I've got to move some things aside and start designing this card. And using up stash, that is my goal right now. And here we go. We're going to cut some of that off so it's all even. Sorry about that. An email just must have came in while I was doing the video. And here we go. Okay, so let's glue this down. Oh my, I mean, so much is happening here. I didn't even know. I wanted to keep it in there because this is what happens with me. I had to cut the back off, which means when I put my, you know, I always put a gusset. So I had like a 1/4 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch gusset hanging there when I cut it. So I had to add a back portion to the page. I know it does not make sense because as I'm saying, it's not making sense to me. So I'm rounding it off here, trying to get the right size, cut it all out, make sure I have that gusset, you know, piece. I have enough to add the gusset. That's what I'm doing there. I am just rubbing it back and forth. Oh, excuse me. Oh, just about got your tail there. And he loves to visit when I'm cutting with my trimmer, doesn't he? So here we go. I want to make sure I have that gusset because Hunter gave me this little toy he got in a package. I think it was from the dollar store where nothing's $1. You get 3 of them, I think, for $1.50. You know, they have that little metal ball in it, and you have to work its way to the center. And he had it in a birthday bag. And I said, oh, Hunter, I can use that on my card. And who doesn't like getting a birthday card with a little toy attached? So I took it apart and I added matching paper inside this little mechanism, this round maze toy, I call it. A maze toy. Here I'm just working. Good night. I'm trying to answer emails and craft, and I don't know what I was doing there. There's the toy there, the little maze toy. They don't cost next to nothing, and the back of them pops right off. You can pop that image, that piece of cardboard right out. Just make sure you hang on to that little ball, but you could use a bead if you lost it. I mean, it's no biggie. There's my gusset. I made sure I had the gusset. Then I'm going to cut off the bottom. Now, even though I do use 130-pound white cardstock, I like my cards to be very firm and thick. So this worked out well doing it like this, because I not only created the card base, but then I added another base over top of this to give me some really nice stability. I love a thick card with weight to it. So this worked out really well. So that ends up being the back of the card with Suquang tape on it there. And yeah, then we get the two sides on the inside, the upper and the lower portion to create on. And I think it's wonderful. I had a blast doing this. So we'll end up doing this together. I put some of the inspiration that I was getting onto this tutorial to show you, such as the Burt's Bees. I have shown that in tutorials past, but I wanted to bring that up because it's a wonderful protectant of anything that you put down as far as your medium. So here, this is funny. This pen is, I'm just going to get it here. It's a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen. And I'm trying to think, but the ink did smear when I put the Burt's Bees over top, just a bit. I did not let it dry. It doesn't, and the reason why, remember I put some of the Burt's Bees over top of the clouds? I had forgot about that. I should have done this with my marker before I put the Burt's Bees on there, or if you're using Distress Glaze. Because that's protecting what's underneath, this ink is sitting on top. So it is going to smear a bit, but I do remedy that. I end up going over it again with the Burt's Bees, and I take the little bit that, you know, was sitting on top, and it comes right off. So it really gave me a nice look. So I wasn't worried about that. I didn't, you know, mess it up. I love the little, you know, I love the way that this stamp, and it's by LDRS Creative as well. This is, I'm going to leave it in the description. I don't have it right in front of me, so I don't want to get, I have this thing about getting names wrong. But there's the Burt's Bees. I am going to get a Q-tip or the end of my stylus thingy there and tap it down onto this first. I'm going to tap it down because if I start going up and down, I am going to most likely smear the pen, the Black Pitt pen. And then with, this is a light hand. It doesn't look it, but I am using a very light hand over top of this because once it dries, I will put some paper towel, as you can see, around the edges and tap it. And then it'll sit and dry. And you get that beautiful, I don't know, it's not a gloss, and it takes away that matte look, and it protects your page all in one. It's wonderful to have. I got the Burt's Bees at my pharmacy. That's where this was, and it's lasted me forever. It's the best. If you have chapped skin, like on your hands or something, this is a miracle cure for that. It's called Burt's Bees Almond and Milk Hand Cream, and I love it. I have it, and it has that little cow on the outside. So here we go. I'm taking some spray glue. I have the E6000 spray, and I have the, I think it said Elmer's, did it? It is the Elmer's glue. I got a little box, and I'm going to spray the bottom here because I had these heart pieces I wanted to add. So here I'm just spraying it into the box, and then I add some E6000 or yeah, 6000. I sprayed that on there. I took my cloth just to take away some of the tea chips, and then I had this from Michael's. It has all these different shades of gold and bronze and copper hearts. And I thought this would look gorgeous if these hearts were floating up with the balloons. You know, that's the effect I was going with here. It's floating up off of the mound, up off the ground, and joining those balloons. I mean, that's the way my mind works, people. And I was looking through my stash, and you know I want to use quite a few stash products. So I got to use these hearts, and oh, the look of this when I was finished is stunning. Now I had happy birthday. I wanted to get out some happy birthday fonts in stamps, you know, stamp form. I wanted to stamp a happy birthday, but I did not want it here. Just too much going on. It would take away from the clouds. It would take away from the, I certainly did not want that. But I did want this. I love this happy birthday. I have used this stamp in so many of my birthday cards. It's crazy. So here we go. Hearts, hearts, hearts. Well, back to my LDRS Creative Sentiment die. And I took one of them out of my stash. And I'm using one of these foam applicators I got at my dollar store where nothing's $1. I put down some of the same color as the clouds. A little bit more green though, just to bring it out, you know, so it stood out from the pack. And I'm putting some one Dury strip to bring it up right there. I'm opening up a new pack, and we're going to just, that's it. My sentiment will be on the front as far as, you know, what I want to say. The happy birthday will be on the inside. I'm just measuring this off. Love these thin strips. I just love it for sentiments, you know. It's not too high like the Scotch foam roll is. It just gives it a little bit of height. And look at those gold, copper, and hearts coming up from the mound. And the gold leaf behind the tea particles there. I love it. And then I always try to remember to add liquid glue behind the tape, because I don't trust it just to stick, especially when you're putting it in an envelope. I'm always crooked. I have to set it up, push it down, set it up. Yeah, sit on it, make sure it's down there and it's not coming off. Yeah, so I hope everybody is doing well under the circumstances here. We are. The weather here is a little unpredictable, but I love it that I have time to craft now. And I have that, if you go over on my blog, I'm stuttering here. If you go over on my blog, you're going to see some fabulous news. I'm putting some sparkly glitters down here as well. Some heart glitters. Glitter hearts. Heart glitters. I'm just like dyslexic. Yes, so I'm going to put those down. It says, "You are truly amazing," on my little sentiment. I love the background hearts. I really do. With the oxide ink. You know, it's really pretty. And the Burt's Bees or the Distress Glaze over top, it's wonderful. Well, my fantastic news is I applied for a design team over on My Creative Spirit. Now, if you are familiar with My Creative Spirit, I'm going to tell you, I was overwhelmed to be chosen to be a design team member on My Creative Spirit, and I'll say more about it in just a minute. I just want to tell you here, I was going to use, oh, there's my sentiment strips and stamps and dies there, but I was going to use this kind of muted paper in the background there, the paper pack, and I did put it inside of this. See how I'm taking this maze apart? It just snaps right off the back. There it is. And you can add your paper right over top. And what an inexpensive way to make children's birthday cards. Now this birthday card is going to my granddaughter who's turning 21. And I know she's going to love a little maze toy on it. And I thought, I'm doing mixed media, so I'm not going to use a die and have anything perfect. I'm going to cut it with the scissors. And if you know me, anything I cut with scissors never turns out perfect. So mixed media is wonderful if I'm using scissors. Yes, it just, scissors and me and mixed media all come together. And this is what I'm doing here. But the funny thing was, I ended up ripping it off. After the glue dried, I decided to use heartfelt creation paper in my stash. I put all this away, and you know, that's the thing with people that create. You know, we creators, we change our minds so many times. And it's on, you know, people say, well, it's just a card. No, it isn't just a card. It's a piece of you that you're doing, and a piece of me that if I'm not totally happy with it, I will take it apart and redo it, and until I say, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And so I switched up, even though I love these papers, I switched it up. Now, here's this leftover piece that I had cut off from my card base. Remember, I made a card base, but I cut it off. Well, that's the piece. Well, I want to make some, I want to make it go on the inside, but make it look really mixed media-ish. So I put some Versamark down on the edges, and then I added some gold embossing powder. Then I'm going to heat set it. I want it to look like a torn page, but use my gold embossing powder to do that. So you're just going to put a little bit of Versamark all the way around the edges. Then you can distress it, or distress it first, it doesn't matter. I think I did distress it first, and then you've got this really nice look of a torn page, but you're using your embossing powder. So I'm going to add this gold embossing powder even on the bottom of my glitter paper. You can see it run all the way across the bottom, just so that it was flowing across there. Now, I had this in my stash, like I said. It's not going to fit the happy birthday stamp. So anyway, yeah, I took a piece of paper, I turned it over, I put it on the back of my toy right there, and it was too white. It was too stark. I just couldn't leave it like that. I had to add some color to that. So I thought, okay, let's just get rid of this paper pack and move on to heartfelt creation. I knew I had some paper that had the green, the oranges, the yellows, the same tones as the other. So look what I did. I took a piece of that paper that had the script behind it, and I'm sorry that I don't know what I was doing there with my mouse, that had that beautiful script behind there. So I put it in the toy. You could see the round silver ball moving around. I just loved it. So I glued that behind the maze toy. And now I thought, oh, I love this butterfly. I have to incorporate this paper onto this sheet, and then put this sheet of paper on top. When you flip open my card, you will be able to see this sheet of paper. So you'll see how I do it here. I'm just going to cut it out right here. I loved this section, to use the butterfly in the upper left corner, and we will cut it out because I am going to distress it, so I don't need to use the trimmer. I'm just going to come around and make it, you know, fit, put it there. I'm going to tear it. So I knew I needed to have a little bit of the edge. And if you want to see the white of the paper, always tear towards you. And then you'll get to see that nice underneath paper. And then you can just, you know, distress it with your inks on top of the white layer of paper. You can kind of do what you want with it. If you tear away from it, it's going to have no edges. It's just going to have the look of the paper you're working with. So I hope you understood that. I tell you what, it's I'm so excited here. Oh, I got a piece of the green paper to match, some deep forest green paper for the background. And I wanted to turn up the corner. So this is what you do. If you want a turned up corner, I can't just turn it because the back side is a different pattern. So what you do is you tear one piece of your corner off, then you rip up another sheet of paper and turn it back on itself. See, if I have the underneath piece there, then I turn it toward me, I'm going to have a nice pattern of the same paper, but in a richer green. And then it's going to go on top of the screen. You'll see what I mean. So this is the back of the same paper, see? It's the back of that. I tore a sheet out. I went around the edges like I did with this big sheet. I put tape or glue on it. Now I'm rolling it back onto itself. There you go. And then it looks like I just rolled back this paper. But because Heartfelt Creation papers have patterns on each side, you couldn't do this and you know, have it look good. So you just tear a piece off, glue it down, fold it back, and it looks like you have that turned back page. So that's what I did. Now, I just want to tell you really quickly here. I applied for My Creative Spirit, their first ever design team, choosing on My Creative Spirit. I'll probably say it 1,000 times. I was so blown away when my name was picked and I got the email on Sunday. I near fell off my chair. The owner, Claire Charville, I hope I said your last name right, Claire. She's such a beautiful person, and I've watched her tutorials for the last few years. She makes the most beautiful albums. She used to design for Graphic 45. She still does, I think, use the papers, and it's called My Creative Spirit. I know everybody knows My Creative Spirit without me even saying it, but I was accepted to design for their first ever design team, and I am walking on eggshells. I'm so excited. So thank you so much to My Creative Spirit and to Claire. You just, I don't know, it's just such an honor and such a blessing. Thank you so much. So now I'll get back. I just had to share that, and I will be designing for My Creative Spirit and along with some wonderful design team members that were chosen as well. So I'll tell you more about that. I did post it on my blog because I couldn't wait. That's how excited I was. I couldn't wait. So here we go. This is going to go on first, my green sheet of paper. You can see I got a bit of glue here and there, but that's okay. It's mixed media, right? That's what I say. You don't have to worry. You can always cover it up. Now I was thinking of putting that crazy maze toy there, but it's not going there, so don't panic. That would not look good at all. So I have that one section on the bottom that curves up. I love that. I love tearing your own paper. I just love tearing your own paper. I really do. And making it your own. And it just something about this looks like, I don't know, like a treasure map. It's just wonderful. And yeah, I'm trying to think, okay, could I put it there? But no, you can't. No, that has to be on something all of its own. So no matter how much I stare at it, it is not going to go there. But as I was staring at it, I decided I'm going to take some of Tim Holtz embossing powder because it's got a grit to it. It's just really gritty, and it matches these papers wonderfully. Even though they're two different companies, they matched, oh, just like it was made for one another. And then I'm going to run and grab them and put them down on the table here on my island, and there you go. Could you get a better choice of colors that were more muted in the mixed media tones? So I had to set that aside because I could just tell that it was an accident ready to happen. So I have some liquid Versamark. That's what I'm putting down with my Q-tip. Then I'm going to add the Tim Holtz embossing powder. And this is nice because I get to choose where I want the powder to be with the Q-tip. And because it's liquid, you know, I can direct it here and there. So I have the muted orange, the brighter orange, the green, the two different green tones. And I went up the right side and across the lower towards the left. You know, I always make an L of some sort when I'm creating with something. So you don't want it all the way around. It would just take, it's too much. It's too much. So I just did the bottom and the right hand side. And that's going to go down on the page. I love Versamark when it's in the liquid form because you can do so much with it. And here I'm just going up a little ways, grabbing my little powder puff and cleaning it up, heat setting it, and it just added something to the feel of, you know, mixed media. So here we go. I'm also going to take this same page, another sheet of paper that I had, and I'm going to cut out the butterfly there. So here's that tag piece, I'm calling it. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the liquid Versamark and my Q-tip to grunge out and get rid of a lot of this sparkle. I did not want a lot of sparkle, but I did want some showing through because that orange matches the butterfly so well. So I wanted to keep some of the glitter, but I wanted to tone down with this gritty embossing powder made by Tim Holtz, and it's wonderful. Look at the look you get. I just added the two different green tones, put it on top here. I had a little bit of yellow I put on, directing it all with the liquid Versamark and my Q-tip to get this look. And if you keep the heat tool on it a little while, you'll get that bubble look, which I just adore. And here we go. I've got it down there, and it's distress powder. That's what it's called. How do I know that? I'm reading it. Otherwise, I wouldn't remember, right? But doesn't it match that butterfly perfectly? Look at, oh yes, yes, we are going to use it. But we're not going to use it there. I'm just kind of thinking, okay, I've got this, I've got that, I've got that. What am I going to do with it all? Well, I'm going to put it all together. Yes. So here we go. I'm going to take another sheet of this wonderful Heart Creation paper. And I don't work with the greens and oranges too often, so this was really nice to be able to find stuff in my stash and use up different products, and that's what it's all about, my friends. So we have the bottom portion here, which had a mark on it that I had to cover up. So this page worked out perfect, and leaving that white worked out perfect. So I thought, white is nice, but I think I'm going to go and get out my Tim Holtz Distress ink because I am going to use it. The Distress ink, I'm going to put some double-sided tape, you know, the roller tape on the back here because I know it's going to stay. And yes, might as well clean up too before I put it away, right? It saves me a little bit of time of doing it later. So here we go. Don't put it upside down because I'm telling you, my friends, Suquang double-sided tape, it's not coming back up. When you put this down, it's staying down. But yet I still have the habit of using liquid glue over top. I don't know what it is. I guess it's like a little security blanket of making sure it doesn't come off the page. So there you have that. You know, that's really not saying much there. Plus the liquid gives me a little bit of moving time, believe it or not. Even though it's completely covered with the Suquang tape, it does give me a little bit of moving space, real quick moving space there. Well, I'm telling you, this was, I don't know, this was so relaxing for me. And there's that little silver ball in there in this maze. I love this. You know why I like this? You go to your dollar store. Mine is my dollar store. I don't get anything for $1. You know that. But you can get a package of these. I don't know, 3 or 6 of them for $1.50. And you can use it on children's cards just by flipping the back out and putting your own design paper to match your card. And it cost you next to nothing. I love that. Here's where I'm going to cut that butterfly out. I want it to sit up so it's three-dimensional. So we will cut that out. And I'll show you what I do with that. I went to my stash and I got some yellow vellum. And that's where I'm going to put my happy birthday on. I love yellow. I love colored vellum. I just love it. So we're going to use that. Here I'm just fussy cutting it. And we're going to put it over top of the butterfly. And then we're going to move the tiny little flowers on the bottom over a little bit. Raise it up with the Doris tape. And even this is relaxing. Sometimes fussy cutting is relaxing, I must say. I really like this stamp positioner too. And so that's always nice. Grab my baby powder, put it down with my dollar store where nothing's a dollar blush brush. Oh yes, this birthday card is coming together and I'm really excited about that. Love the look of it. When I was finished with this, I'm so glad that I went towards the mixed media, style. So I'm using my Versamark black ink just one time. Look at that, one press. Don't you love that font? I just love it. And so then I'm going to use some, this is not clear. This embossing powder, I'll have to leave it. It's from Ranger. It is, I know it's just not clear. It has like a cream color to it, a really light cream color to it. So I put that on top of the black ink because this black ink doesn't dry right away. And it gives you a little bit of time to use some embossing powder. And then I'll clean this off and set it aside, and I'm really happy with it. I'll take my vellum and I'll tear it as well to place it over top. And yeah, birthday card is coming to play here for my granddaughter. I am really enjoying this process, and I cut that little piece there. I just wanted to show you. It didn't look bad coming out of that folded up piece, like this, but I didn't like the idea of it flat on the bottom. There's something about that toy too, right? I just keep putting it where it shouldn't be. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll use that piece, but I don't. I ended up grabbing another sheet of the heartfelt paper, the same one, and cutting the back off where it was rounded. You'll like it when I show you here in a minute. That one right there, the upper portion. I just wanted to fit the happy birthday inside it. Right there. There it is. Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't colored vellum the ultimate? I get that at Beatty's Basics as well. They carry my white cardstock, and they also carry vellum, colored vellum. So that's a bonus as well. And I don't have to... I'm going to distress the edges, so I just take my scissors and I'm cutting it off. All the colors match because it's the same paper line. And look at that. Could that look any sweeter on the top there? This is why I enjoy doing all four sides of my cards. It's like designing plus. I can't wait. That's why another thing, I can't wait to start designing for my creative spirit. I have so many ideas running through my mind, and yes, thank you so much, Claire. I'm saying it again, I can't get it off my mind. That's all I think about, these days as I'm creating. So anyway, I'm going to take my dark gray Copic. I'm going to go over the edges. I'm going to lay down some Doris strips because they're just high enough to raise up without looking too high, And there we have it. We're going to put this right over top of this butterfly. Then I'm going to manipulate the bottom two little flowers. I'm going to cut one little flower so I can tuck the vellum with the happy birthday right underneath it. So it looks like the flower is just growing right out of the vellum. So pretty, so pretty. And that's why we call it designing, right? We just sit there and all of these creative juices flow out. We all have our own style, and we bring each other inspiration. Here I go with just ripping it all towards me so you can see a bit of the vellum, the color of the vellum, a lighter version of the vellum, and you don't do anything else with it. Isn't that fabulous? It seems to just seat there beautifully like it came with the paper line, doesn't it? Here I'll cut this little flower out on the bottom with my cutting mat there. It's really nice because I don't destroy anything like I used to do, forgetting to put my mat down, my cutting mat. And yeah, so let's seat that with some glue underneath. Oh, so pretty. Then I'll follow the font with my glue because it has a nice pointed tip, and we'll put glue on the back of those letters, seat it down. Beautiful, beautiful. Love this. And I love using the art glitter glue because it's clear. Even if it went out of the lines there, it wouldn't matter. And now I'm going to add it to the back, seat it down, and there's the inside bottom portion of this birthday card. You have a lot of stash going on this card that you're able to use up in your craft room. I'll distress around the edges. We're finally going to have a place to put our little maze toy. And I mean, she's 21, and I sat and played with this maze toy. Look at it. It's so much fun. And yeah, so I'm just going to put glue on the back, apply it, and don't forget, if you have paper that has a font behind it, make sure you line it up the right way with your paper. I did have to take it off because I had it going the wrong way. If you notice the outside of this square, it has a font going with it, so you want to match it going all the way across. At least I do. It doesn't matter. I'm sure somebody's not going to give it the hairy eyeball looking close at it and nitpick whether all the letters are going the same way. But yeah, now I need to get a piece for up here, measure it off, trim it out, and we're going to distress the edges so we can put down some more goodness. This is just goodness. Isn't this paper luscious? I love it because it matches the distress inks beautifully. It matches the distress embossing powder beautifully. Yeah, isn't that? And tearing it like that, you don't care, Just tear away. This is the back. Sequin tape roll again. Cut her off. Just turn it around there, Carol. There you go. Take your cutting knife, and it's done. Look at that. Done like dinner. I went to grab my distress ink in the vintage photo, I think it's called, and it matches that paper. I can't get over it, Once you sit down and you start creating and your stash products, this one works its way nicely into that product, and it all comes, there it is. I'm pretty sure it's vintage photo. Yeah, and I got out my applicator. This applicator works well because you get a lot of ink at one time. Opposed to, I always put those little makeup applicator thingies inside of it in case I have to do some, little intricate places. So here we go. That's going to go on the upper portion, and yes, love it. Trying to think here. Actually, the decision was made when I looked at the font. Yeah, where that piece of ripped paper was going to go, the top. And I'm going to release this sequin tape, and I didn't put any liquid glue on there. So watch, as soon as you set that even close to the paper, it's going to suction right on. Oh, there you, yeah, I tried to lift it. You can't. That is it. And it looks beauteous. I just love it. So let's move along. Everything is coming together. I'll take my applicator and proceed to go over all the outside pages with the vintage photo. And I'm feeling good about this card. I love it all. And the placement of our little toy is nice. I'm going to put that on too. You know, having that roll of Suquang double-sided tape, the 5-inch across, works for all kinds of cards, from small to large. It's just wonderful, you know, to have on hand. And it's lasted me forever. It's been in my stash. That is one large roll. Even though you pay a little bit of money, extra money for buying something that is in a large quantity like that, it's like the Scotch roll, right? That isn't cheap either, but it lasts a long time. So that's the one good thing about having this Suquang tape. So we have it seated down. I think it looks like it was made for there, that little maze toy. Don't you think? I really do think she's going to love it. Yeah, it's, you never get old, right? I mean, I'm 66 and I still feel like, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands there, but I still feel like I'm young at heart. So here we go. I'm taking a look at the front. So pretty. Love those poofy clouds, don't you? The inside with the maze toy, the happy birthday on the vellum with the beautiful butterfly lifted up. My hands are going so crazy, it's hard for me to concentrate on doing the voiceover and looking at them. I had to be talking to a friend on my computer at the same time I'm doing my creation here. So let's take out another sheet for the back of the card. And yeah, you know, I've had this heartfelt creation paper for such a long time. And I always say that there will be a project for everything you purchase in your craft room. You think you won't use it and you hang on to it, hoping you will, and then one day everything comes together, and this is the perfect color of greens and browns and oranges. That really makes a statement on this card, especially because I started out with the green balloons, right? So yeah, I mean, what kind of tutorial starts out showing you red hearts and then moves to green hearts? Yeah, couldn't help it. I was cleaning out my camcorder and getting it so that it wasn't full on the card. And once you press that delete, it's gone. It's over. You're not finding it. So that's what happened when I was coloring the green balloons in. But I did have the red hearts saved on there. Now look at, I had to make sure I didn't forget the gusset. Always remember, if you put a gusset on your papers, that it's there, you know, unless you want to show the white paper, of course. Now, moving right along, we're going to take a look at everything we've done as far as 4-sided card. I took the bottom portion off there, and I'm going to take my, not my pokey tool, but my scoring tool, and score along there so it folds nicely. And we're going to create the back of this card. So pretty. I just love it. I love the greens. It's just something about this with balloons going up in the air, and you know. So the vintage photo, it's going to work for me. I'm going around all the outer edges of the white paper that we cut on the green and on the heartfelt paper. And yeah, there's the back. I never fear having glitter, that it's not going to go with any style of card, because embossing powder comes in handy, or gesso, you know, just toning it down with gesso is nice as well. So let's get the vintage photo and go over that. And it is not a difficult card to make, for sure, you know, and it's one of those cards that does use up product, and that's what I'm trying to do lately. Here are the balloons that I punched out. There's the other two colors. Don't you love that coffee colored glitter paper? Oh, I just love it. I think it's my favorite thing, 6x6 glitter papers. they weigh absolutely nothing, and it's like there's no glitter there, but yet it shines, you know. It's so sweet. So I took my 2 punches, and we're going to create some floating balloons here. And then I'll get to use my gold stretchy cord hanging off the balloons. We'll tie a bow on it and call it a day. The decision that I was struggling with here was whether to contain those balloons and hearts on the inside of this tag piece, or whether to put them on the inside. You know, if I did this, I would have to have longer strings and hanging down, and I would take up all of the paper. So as I was looking at it, as you can see here, I'm just going over it with you. It's just a sweet card, I think, for a 21-year-old or a 6-year-old. Either or would be nice. So I decided, yes, I'm going to contain them inside this die cut, and we're going to use my Boing Boing gold thread for the string, and then I'm going to tie it and knot it and then tie it in a bow, and that's going to be it for the bottom, or for, excuse me, for the back of this card. So here we go, a couple of green. I didn't want to add too much green. And then this is my pokey tool, and I have orthodontic wax on the bottom of it. That makes it easier to pick up. Sometimes when you buy these tools, you know, the sticky comes off. So that's why ortho wax is fantastic. Oh yeah, it's party balloon time. Don't you love it? I love anything to do with birthdays. And here we go. Let's put those down, and then we're going to get out that gold twine that I love. I call it Boing Boing because it's stretchy and it's super gold. It's really nice for projects like this. Here it is here. It comes on a piece of cards, like card. I'm sure I got it at a thrift store. And then I'm just going to slide it underneath my balloons with my pokey tool. And then I'll gather it all together. Isn't it sweet? It is nice. And it's nice to know that you're working at the end of your project, right? You're wondering, when is this ever going to get finished? And yeah, like, you know, I'm always hoping it all comes together, of course. There you go. And balloons, so cute. You get to use your punches that you have in your stash. Those little extra pieces, parts that you keep around that are left over from other projects. And you get to use like my Tim Holtz Distress powders. I haven't used those forever. And that was to tone down the gold glitter paper, that die cut there. And the funny thing is, I got all this ready, and I grabbed it all to tie it in a knot, and then I went to put my hot glue on it, to put some hot glue down to hold the bow, and it was such a big glob, literally a big glob, that I went to pull it up and rip the paper, which made it even more fantastic because it looked even more vintagey. So, vintagey, oh, I can't even say it, vintagey, there it is. It made it more vintage looking. How's that? And I'm separating these little pieces, sliding this underneath, tying it in a knot. And if I hadn't have had such a glob of, see how it's stretchy there? So I'm just going to tie it. Then I'm going to cut all the ends off, really cut this close because I'm putting hot glue over top. And I'm super duper pleased with the card. I really am. And I'm just running to get to plug in my hot glue gun. And the one thing about my hot glue gun, I have to say, it does heat up quickly. So that has to get cut close, but that's okay. Hot glue is going on there. And making it odd sizes here with the scissors. And look at that. I'm really happy with this card. Can you tell? I get so excited when I finished a project because I know I've really put my heart into it. There. Now, isn't that sweet? Just look at that glitter and that gold. So pretty. And then it gets toned down with the Tim Holtz embossing powder, which is matte, you know. I'm just super pleased. And I always get excited when I can use Stash products because I have so much of it hanging around. Here it is. I put this glue down there. Then I go to put the bow on, all right? And this super honking piece of hot glue comes pouring out. I couldn't have it sit there. It just, ugh. So I went to grab my tweezers right here. It just, when I put that bow on and pressed it, it was oozing out from everywhere. You probably can't see it, but to my eye, there, watch when I lift my finger. So I thought, okay, I'll start picking at it. Oh, that's not a good thing. I'm picking away, then I get my tweezers, my scissors. Once I get my scissors out, everybody knows something's going wrong. Yeah, I have this weird relationship with my, there it is, look at, with my, I ripped it off and the paper came off and I had to start again. That's okay. I love to share this because I leave it in there. There's nothing more mixed media than paper being torn, right? So here we go. I'll rip it up there. Yep, there. Oh, it just made it complete. Look at that. You can tell I don't even get upset. It's just like another piece of vintage. I get to take out my vintage photo and one of my little applicators, and I add it to the inside. And you know what it looked like? It looked like shadow from the actual strings. So see, it all worked out well. No problem. It all came together. I put another glob on there, covered as much of it as I could, and there you have it. I'll get out my little applicator that I haven't used and put some vintage photo behind there, tie it with the bow, and we're all set. So may I thank you as always for stopping by my blog and my tutorials when I post. I certainly appreciate it. And you have yourself a blessed week. You are in my prayers at this time. And I want to give a loud shout out to Claire at My Creative Spirit for choosing me to be on their first time ever 2020 design team. I'm over the moon excited. So I wanted to share that with you, my friends, as I'm creating this. So there you have it. And isn't that sweet? Just moving right along in slow motion. You know, the time you think you should speed it up, you don't. And when you do speed it up, when you're watching it, you wish you didn't. Yeah, that's okay. I enjoy it. I enjoy spending time with you. You know that. And here we are, right down to the end. So let's just add the final detail, which I think is the vintage photo to cover up that white paper. And I'm sure nobody would notice that. I don't think my granddaughter's going to notice it. But as I was adding it, look at it, looks like shadow of the string. Like the string, the sun was shining on it and it added shadow. Well, my friends, this finishes up this card project. It was wonderful spending this time with you. Here's the back of the card, the four-sided birthday card. And isn't that sweet? I love the way that the glitter kind of peeks through there, and you have the balloons, the clouds, this beautiful maze toy that works well for birthday cards, the happy birthday on this yellow vellum, the cutout butterfly on top. All of it worked together for me, and I'm so happy. So please enjoy the pictures and take care, everybody.